Okay, I'd like to call the City of Elkhorn Common Council Tuesday, July 5th, 2022, 5:30 meeting to order. If we could please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance. Pledge of Allegiance. If I could just remind everybody to pull their microphones down, please. Roll call, please.
Bruce Lechner,
Here.
Tim Sharota,
Here.
Gary Payson Jr.,
Here.
Ron Dunwoody,
Here.
Scott McClory,
Here.
Ken Minell,
Here.
Carol Young. Here.
Public comment coming up. I'll read the statement. Public comments are limited to 3 minutes each. The public may speak on any item that is not included on this agenda as a public hearing or forum, but the council may not respond or discuss the issue brought forward at this time. In accordance with open meeting laws, the council must notice an item on the agenda to allow discussion on that matter. Your comments will be considered and may be placed on future agenda for further discussion. Anybody here for public comment? No, it can be on the agenda, right, Ward?
Yes, absolutely.
It can be on the agenda. Yep. If it's not on the agenda, we just can't talk about it then.
My name is David Crosby, 1139 Monica Drive, and I'm here to address the project 22.0242, known as a biofiltration pond. And everybody here that's going to be making the decision has received emails from me, so I don't think we need to go into too much depth. My concern is this. This is $275,000 taxpayers' money that is going to be spent, and to my knowledge, the only plan that it's going to be spent on is what's been currently presented. In order for that plan to function, per the plan, that water that overtops on Gorman Street has to flow through 3 privacy fences. And I've never seen water flow through a fence, especially at the projected 108,000 gallons per hour. Secondly, Sunday morning, I went out and I shot the grades myself on the north side of Gorman Street. And in order for the overtopping to function, the water level at the northwest corner of Monica and Gorman Street has to achieve 9.84 inches before overtopping even starts. And then once the overtopping initiates, crosses the sidewalk, it's going to meet the fence. And that fence is going to be an obstruction that's going to be causing a damming effect, which is just going to increase the water levels even further on Gorman Street, which will result in the water flowing down Monica Drive. So my concern is this, as far as what the actual scope and intent of the project is. And this is taken right from the memo that was given to the city. The construction of the biofiltration basin in West Court Street outlet will reduce peak flow rates to Monica Drive. States will. I can tell you emphatically, that's patently false. Because there can't be any more or any less than what there really is. And quite frankly, I don't even know how the plan got approved, being the fences were already there. That's totally beyond me. So I think this is an ethics issue at this point, and the city should really reconsider what to do with this plan. And quite frankly, if it was me, I'd start over, because the calculations are off by 27% as far as what the tributary flow area is to the biofiltration pond. I'll close.
Dave? And we will be bringing this up on new business in A in a few minutes, so. Moving on, anybody else for public comment? Okay, we'll move on to consent agenda. We have the council meeting minutes of June 20th, 2022. Everybody had them in their packet? Do we have a motion to approve?
To approve?
We have a motion to approve. Do we have a second? Second. We have a motion and a second. Any questions or discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion approved for meeting minutes of June 20th, 2022. Report of city officers. Mayor, I just want to say I had a lot of compliments and good things said about the fireworks Friday night. I think we had a good crowd. Chief, did everything go good by your end? It did. Good, good. I think it seemed like everybody was pretty happy with them and everything that was going on, so. I just want to say that was good for the city. Adam?
Again, sometimes it seems like the mayor and I have practiced this before, but that was actually something else I wanted to talk about, which was just wanted to say I thought the fireworks turned out really nicely, and I wanted to thank the PD and the fire department, Public Works, and Park and Rec for organizing that event. Like the mayor said, there was a really great crowd. The band was really good, so thanks to everybody who was involved. It seemed like traffic control went really smoothly, so except for one driver from Illinois, but I will not give him too hard of a time. The crowd was giving me a hard time, but not anyway. But yeah, the fireworks turned out really well. I just wanted to thank the water department for their work potholing. This was more back in May and early June when we were trying to get ready for the bid specs that went out, and they're actually on the agenda for tonight for your approval. But I meant to mention it before, but the water department had to do a lot in a short amount of time to work with Foth Engineering to get everything ready to get those lead service lines replaced, the 19 that are on the agenda for tonight. Just wanted to mention Ward's office has been working on an easement to try and get the sewer line installed for the northeastern water treatment plant. So that's something his office has been working on recently. And speaking of the northeastern water treatment plant, we have a meeting tentatively scheduled with DNR on July 12th to get the plant back in operation. So they had, water department did some additional testing, and testing was pretty good. I know they're trying to do everything they can to maximize the efficiency of the removal of the arsenic from that system. So, but they feel pretty confident that the plant can open again. And then last but not least, just wanted to thank, I know our treasurer and finance director have been working hard on the budget, trying to look at numbers and make sure everything's accurate in terms of from prior years, and just to make sure we have good sense as to where we're at. So I just wanted to recognize Corey and Jesse for their efforts. So
Thank you, Adam. Moving on to new business, discussion and possible decision regarding bids for the 2022 Elkhorn Stormwater Improvement Project. I did request to make sure Naomi was here so we could hear her results, and if any council has questions or anything.
I'm gonna try to share my screen here. So I kind of wanted to start out, I don't know if, we had one public meeting and where we kind of discussed options, but this project started or stemmed from some drainage concerns along Monica Drive. And what I kind of want to do is take a step back and kind of talk about, we considered different options, like how did we get to this option before you? A year and a half ago or 2 years ago, I don't recall the exact date, but we went out. There was a rainfall event and where ponding occurred right here, Monica Drive, ponding right in the street. It flows to the backyards between Monica and Maria, and it does damage to houses. It gets in nuisance flooding in the backyard. It was a huge rain event. What exact rain event that was, I can't tell you that information, but it was a lot of rain in a short amount of time, and the storm sewers were surcharged. So there's two inlets here in Monica. They were not taking the capacity of the rain that got to that area. That area filled up and flowed over. So that was the stemming of what can we do? What can the city do, if anything, to help this area? Um, there's, we're talking about the pond. We talked about the wetland last week or last month. The pond today before you has a drainage area to it. It does not encompass all the drainage area to Monica Drive. It's just one area that the city owns the outlet and has the potential, should they wish to do something, to take away some of the stormwater that goes to Monica Drive. This area here currently has a swale that is swaled around. There's a hill, and it's swaled around and discharges right here that goes over to Monica Drive. This is a high point, so the water does not go to Court Street at this point. So we looked at several options. We looked at, do we want to do a whole storm sewer analysis? If we changed any of the drainage divides and diverted water away, we would have to look at the storm sewer. We'd have to look at all the drainage areas to all the inlets. We'd have to look at the capacity of the existing system. That's a significant effort, modeling and then project money-wise. We looked at, could we increase more storage in this wetland? Would that help? We talked about that scenario last month. This was another option that we had considered, and moving forward with design plans, we have a proposed pond that has capacity in it to control the 100-year storm from this drainage area that goes directly to it, with a little bit of freeboard for any other drainage that comes to it. So, that's kind of where I want to go next, is what does this pond do? What can this pond do? Here's the kind of the
I was just gonna mention, does everybody understand, like, freeboard, or it's basically, it's a factor of safety? So you've got your modeled event, and then there's a factor of safety on top of that, which is your
Yep.
freeboard.
Yep, I have a model event, so I have a high water level that we would expect in the pond during a certain storm event. And then I have some area between that high water level and the spillway, because the spillway has to go in the same direction it went before. So anything going over the spillway, we count going to Monica Drive. The pond drains through a connection to the storm sewer. We know that storm sewer is surcharged, so we've done many analysis, and our final design accounts for zero flow through the storm sewer, because we know that is a condition that happens. That is the only benefit, is if we provide enough storage when we have zero discharge to the storm sewer, that we're going to hold back some of that water from Monica Drive. If we count on the storm sewer, we're going to have less effectiveness, because as soon as that storm sewer surcharges, water will not go through that storm sewer. So what does this pond do? So this pond has constraints as far as we have only so much space in our outlet. We have to discharge, so we're making a connection to the existing storm sewer. The overflow spillway is the same as it is now. It's going to go along this lot line. But I've modeled this for tributary area of 2.46. That's in any rainfall event. Any rainfall event, 2.46 of currently undetained stormwater, acres of stormwater, are getting to this pond. In the 100-year storm event, with zero flow through the storm sewer, I have a 100-year high water level in the pond of 1035.7. So you can kind of see it's not completely full, so there's a little extra capacity in the pond, and it's about 9 inches until it overtops the spillway. That's what we're calling the freeboard. So any rain event, whether anything from the street gets there, whether any other surcharge water gets there, that is what the pond is going to do. It's going to keep all of that flow, which is approximately 9 to 10 CFS and 32,864 cubic feet of water. It's going to keep it in the pond until it can drain through the storm sewer. It will not overtop the spillway. So that's not standard. All right, standard, you'd allow some water through the storm sewer, but we're being conservative because we know the conditions of the site. Okay, so there's a little extra volume in order to accommodate for that surcharge condition. So that's, the freeboard, typically when you're designing a pond, and this is kind of we can make this pond as big or as small as we want because we're trying to help, but we have no standard, we have no design standards technically that we have to meet, right? So I could put retaining walls if you want this bigger. I can make steeper slide slopes if you want this bigger. Could this pond be smaller? Sure, you can decide you only want to capture the 50-year event. We only want so much volume to be detained within the pond. I've sized it for the 100-year. So no water from the 100-year from that 2.46 acres will go through the lot line. The other reasons why we have, typically there's a foot of freeboard between the high water level and the spillway because of settling. It's a factor of safety. Frozen conditions. You know, if you have a large rainfall and your ground is frozen, you might get more water than you anticipate. So those are some, and what we've talked about is in the surcharge conditions, okay? So if there's a surcharge condition, the last meeting, I'm gonna go back. But the last meeting we had, we talked about surcharge conditions, and you saw this map. This was my surcharge condition drainage area. So we made some assumptions here, and we talked about those in the meeting. We talked about, there's this overflow elevation. I used 1-foot contours here, which is very typical for drainage areas outside the project area, which we get site-specific topo for. And to size our spillway, we did the surcharge condition. So if all this water surcharged and raised high enough, and I said I didn't know what that elevation was, high enough to get back here, how would that pond react? Would the sides blow out? Would the neighbors flood? You know, we looked at that condition, and that was what we called the surcharge condition, and modeled or designed our spillway only to funnel that water so that we don't blow out the neighbors. We don't create too high of water where it backs up on lots. So that was an extreme case. And if you remember in that condition, I think we had about half a foot going over the spillway in the pond. The water was contained within the pond in that condition. Recently, we got additional information. I just want to address that. This is Mr. Crosby's information. I think he may have shared with you. I think a little differently sometimes. So if you look at the numbers on Mr. Crosby's example, his larger number is actually a lower elevation. So what I did is I can kind of convert them to a datum of 100 so we can compare across the board. It was kind of confusing. So this is about the location of the intersection of West and Gorham. We know that it ponds here. It ponds here until it overtops the road. This has been, I went out there, I saw high water lines of debris. So we know it ponds here. When it ponds here, you'll notice there's this sidewalk elevation is 6 inches higher than the gutter. Okay, these are shots from David. So according to his shots, this is 6 inches higher than the gutter. It would have to pond 6 inches to overtop at this point. But you will also notice that the sidewalk is only 0.18 inches above the gutter line here. So there's, if it got over 6 inches, it can get back to our pond in the surcharge condition. There's another location where there's a 4-inch separation between the gutter and the sidewalk right at a drive. So if that got 4 inches higher here, it could access the pond. So we've accounted for that. We didn't necessarily size for that. That would take up our freeboard volume, but we've accounted for the fact that if it gets there, what's going to happen? Okay, conservatively. Does the water go down Monica? Yes, it does. There are rainfall, we kind of talked about this last time, there are rainfall events that if it does not rise enough, it's going to go down Monica and we can't capture it. And it would not be my recommendation to try to bring it back here because that's not where the water actually goes now. You're going to create more problems. So what we're trying to do is we're trying to provide enough capacity in the pond so that we feel comfortable that we can hold the water back and not have it drain to Monica Drive in an area that we own with the existing drainage area. Um, so, so what the pond can't do is it's not gonna, I'm not saying that they're never gonna flood. I'm not saying that. In fact, we haven't pinpointed one project that would take care of all the drainage to that area. We haven't pinpointed that. This is just one possible way to hold back some water that we know drains to Monica Drive. And Matt has pictures of it draining along that outlet that we're now gonna capture and hold until the storm sewer is ready to release. Any questions so far?
Council members?
So if we do nothing, everybody continues to have a problem. Or we can do something within the limitations that we have to try to do something. While this is not going to solve all the problems, it's going to make a good attempt to try to solve what we can reasonably without tearing down houses and making a big lake ourselves.
Correct. I mean, this is one option that we've looked at that we can hold back 23,864 cubic feet in the 100-year. And any storm up to that, we can hold it in that pond without it going to Monica Drive. That's not happening now.
Sure, go ahead, Dave. If you come up to the podium, though, so just so it's on record. Sure. You don't have to say your name, just question, though.
Appreciate that. One question I have is on the tributary flow to the proposed pond coming from the north off of West Court Street. Have the grades actually been measured on the south side of West Court, tangent to the West Court apartments, to determine whether or not half of that road actually flows into the driveway of the West Court apartments?
Can you point on the map? Not sure I'm following.
Oh, sure.
Yeah. I do not have any spot elevations over there. It was not necessary for, this part here does not go to the pond.
It flows right down.
Right here. This is the low point here.
Can we get him back on mic so that we can hear? I want to make sure that this is all on record. Sorry about that, Mr. Crosby.
I'm just glad we're here getting this straightened out.
This is so he's asking about specifically, so we don't have spot elevations over here. This is, to answer your question, no, I do not. There's a 1041, there's a 1040, there's a 1039. This is draining this way. There's a swale here, which is pushing the water through here. This is where we're getting, well, I mean, your house is right here.
Yeah, my house is the one that floods.
Right, and we've seen water, flow, gushing through here that sits in this,
Correct.
yeah. And that's where the water sitting here is what ultimately overtops. So what we're trying to do with this project is get as much water that we can in this outlet and keep it from going this way so it doesn't sit here, so that when water does come down Monica, because you will have water down Monica, that it has a place to go. Now this water is sitting in the pond, and this has area for it to catch water in the surcharge condition.
I understand that. What you're doing is you're capturing the water that's, with what you just stated, you're gonna be capturing the water that's approximately on one half of the West Court apartments. And that'd be the north half, and whatever else comes in off of Court Street.
I'm not catching anything off Court Street.
Okay. Well, I'm a dummy, and if I don't know, I go out and I look. And that's why I went out and I shot the grades. And without actually having physical measurements and physical grades, quite frankly, I don't know how the estimates and the calculations can be made, because what I see here is a contour map, and I don't know if that contour map is current or was established before those structures were even put up.
We typically, you know, it's not standard to go out and take 10-foot spot elevations at every drainage divide. This
Well,
is
I
a very,
understand that, but we don't have a standard situation here. We have a subdivision, which is Elkhorn West subdivision, that was essentially not properly permitted, essentially, it was illegally permitted. The original 2020 plan of the city that was drafted in 1976, and I talked to Gary Emig about this before I built my home, there was not to be any construction west of west of West Street. Furthermore, there was not performed the mandated by the state, the surface water, storm surface water discharge assessment. And it's even contained within the city building ordinances. It's supposed to be done. It never got done. I take it back. It did get done. It stopped at West Street.
Which I understand, Dave, but we can't go back and change all that.
Well, I understand we can't go
So
back and change it, but the
we're gonna
thing
try to help you out with your situation of, sorry about that. Tornado warning
my house flooding too, I don't know.
till 6:45.
The only thing I'm asking is this: if we're gonna spend taxpayers' money on this, spend a little bit more on the engineering, find out exactly what's there first. Because my neighbor across the street, Jerry Opper, he's none too happy about his neighbor to the west, the apartment complex, not maintaining that driveway. Originally, that driveway, and Matt and I went out and we walked that, and the driveway had a curb that was made out of pavement that was supposed to direct the water down towards towards the drain, and it's all collapsed. There's other maintenance issues, and now that water that comes off of Court Street and also in the apartments, buildings, goes right through his yard.
I just would like to share a picture with the council. Just show some of the flooding. So the picture I'm going to show you was taken from, oops, didn't mean to grab that. Taken from this point looking south. And what I want to show is that there's water that comes down through here and then flows along the side lot of this outlot and the back of these homes here. So I just want to show you the volume of water from one of the events where we were out on site during one of the floods. So this is the outlot that we're considering building the bio retention basin. And this shows water that flows back through here, that continues to head north, and then cuts through the back. Again, this is at a surcharge moment, and when we say surcharge, that means you basically don't consider your storm sewer because it's completely full. And now it's just overland flow because water flows downhill, so you're following contours. And I think that David will agree with me here that as this water flows down here, it goes in between two homes. One, I believe, is the neighbor that he had mentioned that's right across the street from him. And then once it crosses the street, then it goes right along, right through the side yard of David's house. So I just wanted to show the volume of water that would be captured inside that pond.
So in this picture, so if you can explain to everybody what that big grassy knoll is?
that's,
That's gonna be gone, right?
Exactly. So that's all gonna be for the pond, correct?
yes, that will be dug out. There's a
Right.
hill there, so,
Mhm.
so, you know, the size of the pond, the construction costs are, you know, the digging of the pond is not a lot of the you know, it's mobilization, it's taking the hill down, it's, you know, so we can tweak the size of the pond. If you don't want as much safety factor, that would shrink the pond. We could do that. But I think the bang for your buck is to, let's keep the water on the site. If this is, if we're gonna do a pond, let's
Let's
give
do a
it some
pond.
volume.
Yeah, I'm
Yeah.
not, by no means am I saying make it smaller.
No, but I'm
No,
just throwing it out there. I don't
no.
want the impression to be that I'm
But-
oversizing.
Right, well, my biggest thing
Wasting
is,
money.
a
Yeah.
picture's worth 1,000 words, and for everybody sitting here tonight,
Yeah.
is to understand that when you look at this picture, you see a lot of water around it versus in it, which will happen if we dig a hole and we make it a pond, which is gonna have an effect on your property in a positive manner. Is it gonna solve it all? Probably not, but it's gonna help a lot. I would rather see a big hole there full of water than all that water running along that fence line going through your yard. So, as someone that's been dealing with water, which is why I'm sitting on this council now, is we finally took care of what we could, the best that we could. You can't make water flow on flat ground. That's what I deal with. Us putting a pond in there is gonna help you. Okay, I've been dealing with this stuff a long time myself. Okay, I think this is gonna help you, and I would really be looking for your help and your support with this council and helping us make sure this happens.
You have my support 100%.
I appreciate it, thank you.
Just that I want to make.
You want to get this, or,
You gotta get back on the mic.
I'll give you this right after. You
Yep.
want this?
No, I'm good. But my concern was is that biggest is that we had an illustration of an overtopping taking place on Gorman that was appeared to flow through 3 fixed objects. So the first question that came to my mind is that, did anyone even go out and look? I mean, I'd like to ask, did anybody from the council actually go out and look to see if there were fences that were there, if it was gonna actually overtop at that place?
I did not go out and look myself, but I'm gonna look at the professionals at the other end of this room
Yeah.
for their advice.
Yeah, we don't, fences come and go with property owners. We don't design around fences. We don't reduce flow rates because of fences. Those come and go. And water sitting behind a fence, I mean, David knows, it's gonna find the lowest spot. His fence broke. He cut a hole in his fence to get it to the lowest spot. 'Cause it's gonna push and push and push until it gets through. So in that situation and that flow pattern was for a specific event that, Matt and I have been pretty clear this is a extreme event. It's one we haven't pinpointed how many times when this happens, how much rain. That it's a very specific event, and it was only used in seeing if our spillway could handle it, and then if it would also provide detention. But fences, we don't design around fences.
And I would agree with that.
Well, if the staff is satisfied, and Mr. Crosby apparently is satisfied that this will be something towards improving that parcel and that swale area, I make a motion to go ahead and get this plan moving. The sooner the better, because,
We're approving the low bid today.
right,
Yep,
that's what I'm saying.
Okay.
And while we're here, can I ask one other question?
Wait,
Is
I
that
got
a motion?
I got a motion,
Yeah,
then
that's
I
a
gotta have a
motion.
second, then we
I'll
can.
second that motion.
Okay. You can ask now, Dave.
Could you bring a map up on the wetlands?
Yeah.
Shows the E1 and the E2?
I just want to mention real quick, if you don't mind, David. So I just want to show, before I give this back to Naomi, because she's got the maps on her screen, I just wanted to show this picture that shows, this is looking south on Monica. So you'll see a significant amount of water that's in the road here. This water will continue to flow down Monica in this event. There's the back lot back here is where I took the other one. So you're going to have this front water that will stay in the road. But the area that I showed you will be contained within the pond. I just want to mention that. So.
May I ask, Naomi, the pond that you were describing, it's currently a mound, it'll be a pond, but it looked to be, I think I saw a figure of 6 foot in depth, is that right?
Couldn't tell.
Sure, I'll look.
But to your point, even if we have a 100-year rain, it's still gonna have enough room to hold that.
That's what I was getting at.
Yeah, and she said that, so.
So the bottom of the pond is 1034 here. In the 100-year rainfall event, with just the drainage area that already goes to this area, location, it's going to be almost 1.5 feet high. The overtopping spillway is at 1036.5. That would be 2.5 feet before it overtops the spillway.
So we have a motion and a second. Scott, can you include in your motion always for $242,440?
Yes, I'll amend my motion to reflect the dollar amount
Always contracting?
and always contracting.
Okay.
And I will amend my motion to second on that, second approve, whatever.
Just so we can get the dollar amount in there.
Right.
Any other questions or discussion?
Mayor, I think that David wanted to mention something when we pulled this map up. Just-
Okay, go ahead, Dave.
One question I have is that, on the easement section that goes back to that, city-owned property where the, pond is to be, built, right off of, yep, and you would scroll up a little bit. Okay, that I want to scroll down then, I'm sorry, I apologize. Right where the number 4 is, that easement area, I would implore you to actually go out and shoot the grades out there, because the property owner that's on the, east side of that lot, they put down, tin, 1 foot off the ground, the full length of their, fence. I didn't, I wasn't knocking on anybody's door at 7 o'clock in the morning on Sunday. Otherwise, Joel might have been coming to visit me. But, there's a good lot, and then based on the current contours that, are available at the county, it appears that there's actually water that's flowing, accessing that pond area, right from the street along that lot line.
Here?
Correct?
That's good. We want that. I mean, we want it to go here. If it goes there, we're ready for it. That's what the overall scenario was trying to,
Well, and to modify it would actually increase the flow to it, and I don't know if you, and I'm not an engineer, I don't know if that's what would be desirable or not. I noticed that the modifications to the wetland is, correct me if I'm wrong, it's limited to E2, which is the upper, area.
no, there's no modification to the wetlands with this project. That was discussed at the last meeting. There was cost for mitigation that was discussed and not budgeted for, so it's going to be revisited.
All right, well, one comment I'd like to make is that, based on the plans, it showed that there was a, material to be put down to support vehicles going in and out of E2. And the question is I have is that, why could there not also be, the same, excavation done or dredging with E1? In other words, have a 2-tier, reservoir system where, E2 is gonna be catching the water that actually comes off, that actually flows into E2 from the storm drains off of Court Street and adjacent properties. And then, that would be a primary holding area, and then I also establish the same in E1. I mean, is there anything that would that would prevent the, state from allowing that to be done?
Well, we looked at that as part of this project, but the wetlands within E1 and E2 are regulated wetlands. We can only disturb up to an acre. And we have to pay like $80,000 in mitigation fees. So that was discussed at the last meeting, and so it was put on hold because the amount of the best bang for our buck would be to excavate the lower portion here, because we have more grade and we can get to the outfall. And we have to limit our disturbance to an acre.
So council did talk about that last meeting and postponed it for right now, so.
And then there's a storm drain that's located at the south, east corner of E1. And in the original plans that city approved in 1999, there was a modification that was to take place to that storm drain. Has that been budgeted for to at least get that done?
That was a part of the dredging project, so I don't think we want to do one without the other. Need to look at it as a system, which we started to and then got some costs and realized that we maybe have to think before moving forward with that project.
I think it was also a timing issue with trying to get that permit to where it
Yes.
wouldn't be even possible to try to get it in this construction season.
That's correct. Yeah, it was additional cost that wasn't presented to the council that we then presented, and then it was a timing issue to consider for future.
Thank you very much for your time.
Council, have any other questions? Roll call vote, please.
Scott McClory,
Yes.
Gary Payson Jr.,
Yes.
Tim Sharota,
Yes.
Ron Dunwoody,
Yes.
Ken Minell,
Yes.
Carol Young.
Yes.
Motion passed to go with Always for $242,440 on this Elkhorn Stormwater Improvement Project. Next, we have discussion and possible decision regarding Harold D. Back Trust 2 Lot Certified Survey Map on Peachy Road. This went through Plan Commission and was sent to council for approval.
So move.
We have a motion. Do we have a second?
I'll second.
We have a motion and a second. Any questions or discussion? It was in your packet. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passed for the Trust Lot 2 Certified Survey Map for the Peachy Road project. Next, discussion and possible decision regarding resolution number 22-13, a resolution authorizing execution of the Department of Natural Resources Principal Forgiven Financial Assistance Agreement. Everybody seen the memo and about that in your packet? That's to help out with the lead pipelines. Does anybody have any questions? Do I have a motion? We have a motion to approve resolution 22-13. Do I have a second?
I'll second.
We have a motion and a second. Any other questions or discussion? Roll call, please.
Ron Dunwoody, Gary Payson Jr.,
Yes.
Carol Young,
Yes.
Ken Minell,
Yes.
Scott McClory,
Yes.
Tim Sharota.
Yes.
Motion passed regarding resolution number 22-13. Next, discussion and possible decision regarding bids for the 2022 utility side water lateral replacement project. So, have any questions? You've seen the bids? They did come under what we anticipated, correct?
I don't see the dollar amount on my screen yet, so I can't say nothing.
Um, Read it off if you'd like. and it's-
Yeah, please.
It's,
Sorry.
Bradford Contractors, the total base bid at $171,965.
That'll be my motion. I'll second.
We have a motion and a second. That's what we were going on, correct? The total base bid, not the alternate? Correct. So we have a motion and a second. Any questions or discussion? Roll call, please.
Gary Payson Jr.,
Yes.
Scott McClory,
Yes.
Ron Dunwoody,
Yes.
Ken Minell,
Yes.
Tim Sharota,
Yes.
Carol Young.
Yes.
Motion passed for the bid for the 2022 utility side water lateral replacement project. Next, I'll need a motion to adjourn into closed session, and we could reconvene into open session for possible action on closed session item.
Make that motion, go in closed section.
We have a motion. Do we have a second? Second. We have a motion and a second. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? We will go into closed session. Do we have a motion to adjourn?
I'll make that motion to adjourn.
We have a motion and a second. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Meeting adjourned. Thank you, everyone.